So hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us today, and hello to those watching us back on the recording if you couldn't make it today. I'm Saskia, Research Grants Officer at Alzheimer Society, and today we have a really great and informative webinar for those of you who are interested in applying to one of our grants or who would like to find out a little bit more already, or if you've already opened an application, have started the process but want more guidance on specific sections and have questions for us, then this is the place for you. So to kick us off, we have Julia, who'll be giving us an overview of the application form and process, followed by Amy, who will go through the lay portion of the application. And then we'll end with a live Q&A session at the end where you can ask us questions. But feel free to pop us your questions in the chat as you think of them throughout the webinar, and we'll do our best to answer them. And for those of you who are watching the recording, if you have any questions, there will be a slide at the end showing us our contact details, and we'll be happy to answer your queries at a later date when you're ready to ask the question. So without further ado, I'll pass over to Julia, who'll be going through the slides.
Great, thank you very much, Saskia. And yeah, hi everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today. We pop on these information webinars to try and answer as many questions as possible in one go, either through what we let you know on the slides or the questions that come in from you guys as well whilst we're here. So the outline webinar, just trying to find the right thing. There we go. Okay, so today we're just going to be going over the grant submission process that we have here at Alzheimer Society. As I'm sure you're aware, funders have different ways of doing things, and this is our particular way at Alzheimer Society that we like to do it. It is an iterative process though. You know, if you really hate it, then let us know and we'll work on how we can make it better for everybody. We don't want it to be, we know grant submissions can be an onerous task, however necessary they are for people's careers and for your work. But we want to make it as good as it possibly can be for you as well, within the bounds of what we need to do as a funder in order to fund the best dementia research that we possibly can. So we have a few different steps within our submission process, and at the moment you'll be falling within steps 1 and steps 2 on the chart here. Step 1 being idea development, obviously starts with you guys. Absolutely though, do look up at our website. We have a research mission statement. We have different areas that we like to focus on as a charity, but that doesn't mean that we discount things either. We are very aware that we're not the experts in research. It's you guys doing the research that are the experts. It's our grant advisory board. It's our research network volunteers. It's the external reviewers that come in that tell us whether or not research is worth doing. So, you know, even though it might not be clear on our website and within our remit as a charity, it will probably still be really good research. So don't let anything that you see on our website put you off either. There's ideas there from research that we've previously funded, as well as, like I say, our focus as a charity. So then step 2, hopefully what you're working towards or thinking about working towards right now is the submission of your outline proposal. And that's really what we'll focus on in today's webinar, so that you can understand where that sits and what it is that you should be focusing on within that submission today. And after the outlines have been submitted, once they've gone through the review process, that'll be going into step 3 where shortlisting takes place. So that's down to the opinions and the thoughts and of our grant advisory board, so external academics, scientists, researchers, and most importantly our research network volunteers who are our lay representatives. They all come together, review all of those outlines and make a decision about what should be shortlisted, and then for step 4, invited to submit a full proposal. If you are invited to submit a full proposal, we'll do another webinar in the future to go over that process. Like I say, at the moment, we're within this outline stage 1 of the applications. That's what we're really going to focus on today. What is in our outline proposals? So the basic concept then for our outline proposals, we wanted it to be a slightly easier way for people to be able to dip their toe into grant submission. So as a charity, we very much want to focus on providing a better environment for early career researchers, particularly to come into dementia research and to thrive within dementia research as well. So one thing that can be really off-putting when you put in a grant application is being faced with having to draw up a 50-page application. So we wanted to make that process easier, and we wanted to make it so that people heard a bit earlier whether or not it was worth pursuing their research idea in the form that it's currently in. So for us, this outline proposal, it's that initial submission stage, it's a way to get your research idea out there to the people who are making the decisions. As I've already said, our grant advisory board and our research network volunteers, showing them who you are as a candidate, what your research will be able to do, and yeah, hopefully they'll agree with what you're saying and invite you to submit that full proposal. As I said, for our it's that opportunity to showcase who you are as a researcher. That's very much focused on our fellows, the fellowship candidates that come to us. So we want to be able to know you as a researcher. And this isn't necessarily pertinent, I suppose, for project grant applicants, depending on where you are in your career stage, of course. But for fellows who haven't perhaps got that background of grants being awarded, it's that opportunity to say, this is what I've done so far, this is why I'm a great candidate, and this is why I'm passionate about doing dementia research. What should be included in the outline submission? So there's, alongside the usual application form bits, so there's the CV section where you fill in your grants, your publications, your work experience, that kind of thing. There is also the scientific outline, which is at this stage just 2 pages, giving a brief background of your research idea, making sure you're keeping that brief, mainly focusing on what the aims and the overview of your project are, and then bringing in additional information such as the team, research environment, and a very brief costing section. So 2 pages, as I'm sure you're all aware, isn't very much. So you've really got to make it punchy. You've got to say, this is the research I'm doing, this is why I'm doing it, this is why it's important, and this is how, within my team, my environment, how it's going to be successfully produced. And then alongside the 2 pages of scientific summary, we have 1 page of lay as well. So again, with it using lay language, this is for our research network volunteers who, although they do have experience of reading applications, they are not scientists, they're not the academics. So it needs to be, you need to showcase that you can deliver your research idea to people, to the vast majority of the public. The vast majority of the public are not scientists, but they are still really interested in your research and what you do. So it's being able to convey your message to a lay audience. Within the structure we've given there, giving a brief background, the aims of the project, and really, really important, how it impacts people affected by dementia, what impact it will give to the people that we care about most, those who are living with and affected by dementia. New for this year, we have this section, as I mentioned, for our research fellows and for the career development grants, a CV narrative section. This is an opportunity for the researchers to lay out their career to date, explaining how this award will really support their professional development. So that is separate to the 3 pages that I spoke about before. This is part of the application form that you do on Grant Tracker, rather than writing it separately and uploading it. So if you want more information about this section, like I say, it is brand new. We're having a session tomorrow morning. Click on the QR code there. That session will also be recorded, and we'll send it round to relevant applicants as well. And that session will involve our chair of our grant advisory board, Professor Jill Livingston, alongside two other key members of our grant advisory board, Professor David Llewellyn and Professor Terry Quinn. So they will be there to give you their insights into why this section is really important for them, why they suggested that it was really important for us to include this in the application form, and give you pointers about what to include in that section. Okay. And this is where, bringing in Amy. So you get a different voice to listen to now. Amy, over to you for why is it that we have the lay case for support?
Well, hi everyone, it's lovely to be here today and to give you a bit more information about why we have a lay case for support and also around why we involve people with lived experience. So I'm Amy Kordiak, and I'm a Senior Involvement Partner at Alzheimer Society. And my role is to oversee all of our involvement in research. So I work alongside a colleague, Claire Stockwell-Lance, who leads the research network. And as Julia's already said, so our research network is a group of around 185 volunteers, all with lived experience of dementia. So some people have dementia, some people are carers, some are former carers, but all of them really passionate to support our grants rounds and to be able to give their insights. So they really do play a big part in whether or not we fund applications. So this is why I'm going to give you some top tips. But yeah, if you could move to the next slide, Julia, that'd be great. Thanks. So why we involve people with lived experience of dementia then in the work that we do? So they've got a right, so democratic principle and also the fifth dementia statement. So they have a right to be involved in anything that affects them. And specifically, they have the right to know and decide if they want to be involved in research. So it's their right, and therefore it's only right that we involve them in the grants process. We also involve them to provide a different perspective. So you're giving us all of the scientific background to why you're conducting the research, but also they will give us a lived experience perspective too. So it helps us to get a fuller picture of why we would want to invest in your research. Also to improve the quality of the research. So to ensure the research focuses on outcomes that are important to people with lived experience. Just keeping that in mind the whole time when we're assessing grants or grant applications, and to make your research more relevant. So to identify a wider set of research topics focused on what matters to people affected by dementia and helping to shape and clarify the research. So as you'll go on, if you are lucky enough to be funded in the grant process, they are very hands-on in guiding on making sure that you are ensuring that there's that quality of lived experience throughout. So also supporting participation. So this may be something that lots of people come to us and say that they struggle with. So it's thinking about that from an involvement perspective and better ways to engage people and to involve or to increase the number of people participating in your research, but also looking at diversity. So they will support with that and think about different ways that you could approach and engage people with the work that you're doing. Improving the accessibility of your research. So this is key really in terms of looking at the language that you use, how well it can be understood, how simple is it to convey it to the public. So this is a key part of the work that they do for us. And also I'll go on to that with when you put your proposal forwards. Also aligning the focus with public interest, so making research relevant to real life situations, and again, adding to the fuller picture. Enriching and improving quality of the research, so they add narrative to scientific findings, and just generally they will give their experience to just add quality. And increasing the motivation for the researchers. So if you are lucky enough to be funded and you then go on to be assigned someone to support you, then having that lived experience throughout the grant life cycle is so important for motivation. We have that feedback lots, that to know how it will impact on the lives of people affected by dementia throughout is so vital for people, particularly if things aren't going to plan or if there are unexpected outcomes. just knowing that you're having that impact on people's lives. So can I have the next slide, please? Thank you. Okay. So what are volunteers review then? So they are a crucial part of the process. So they are as important to us as the experts by profession in the room that review the grants. And they're really looking at the three key areas that Julia has already outlined. So the first is that they want a brief background justifying why you want to carry out the proposed research. So they'll be looking at whether or not they can understand it and why you want to conduct the research, and make sure that that's generally can be understood. They also are looking at the aims of the proposed work. So is it clear what you're hoping to achieve? And again, can that be understood by everybody? And then thirdly, they're looking at the potential impact for people affected by dementia. So how is your research going to improve the lives of people affected by dementia? And how will you measure this impact? And how will you know if it's been successful? What I can't emphasize enough here is that you should just try and keep it as simple as possible. So you want to be aiming it at the language that you would use for a 12-year-old in order to make it accessible. And what will turn people off will be if there are lots of abbreviations and acronyms that aren't that don't have the full description of. What we do recommend to some people is, or if you're going to do that, is that you provide a glossary alongside your application, just so that when people are reading it, that it makes sense to them. But really, I suppose the key message is it's three areas they're looking at. Really spend some time on that. That's as important as putting forward your scientific proposal, and just keep it as simple as possible, because they just want to be able to understand it and support the work that you do. And that's it from me, but I'll be around till the end. So if anyone's got any questions around how we do our lay review or anything to do with the research network, I'll be on at the end.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Amy. So as Amy has already really said, other factors to consider within your proposal: be clear, direct, and persuasive. Is the quality of your writing, not the quantity. You've only got 2 pages for your scientific and 1 page for lay. Don't make your font size really small. We do have a page about that in a bit, but be succinct in the areas that you're giving. This is just it's a amuse bouche, I suppose, for the researchers. It's pull them in, make them want to hear more, make them go, that sounds really interesting. Oh, I want a full application to really understand that. That's what you want to aim from, to be able to get from the reviewers. And always keep people affected by dementia at the heart of your project. It's who we are as a charity, and that's what we want to be able to see in the research that we fund as well, and what we want to feel from the researchers, most importantly, that you care about this field as much as we do. So the slightly boring bit now, the format of the outline, very important though, so important. As we've been saying, there's 3 pages in total that are going to be added to your grant tracker application, 2 pages of scientific outline and 1 page of lay. Font size for your scientific cannot be smaller than 11 Arial 11 points, and for your lay it needs to be Arial 12 points. We do expect 2 centimetre margins around each as well. I know this probably sounds really picky, but if you can appreciate that we will likely receive, I don't know, maybe 200 applications. All of those applications are going to be fairly reviewed, but by quite a small pool of people, really. And so they need to be able to read your applications. They don't want to be getting blinded by 10-point Arial, which goes from side to side of the page. That's going to make it really difficult for any reviewer to really give their all to looking and appreciating what it is that you're saying when they've read 20 other applications as well. Now, hopefully that won't be the case, and we're going to obviously we will be getting a lot of experts in to support this process, but imagine that that's the case, that you are you're fighting for that readability. So please don't make it too small, and don't do a whole justified page worth as well. Any figures and diagrams that you want to use are included in the word limit. If you put them onto an additional page, they won't be looked at. They need to be included within the page limit so that they're really showing that they add value to what it is that you're saying. So make sure that it's actually important that they go in there, that it really adds to what it is that you're saying. References are required for your scientific outline, but they don't form part of the page limit. So don't feel like you need to put them into a footnote at the end. References are necessary, but they won't take up your page limit, okay? You don't need to have references in your lay review. It might be that you really want to say there's been, there has been additional research that supports this. Absolutely say that, but you don't need to do a full reference list for them. Other factors to consider then when it comes to the format: adhere to the guidance for the font size and margins. Hopefully it's clear why that's necessary. Make sure that your outline is readable, that somebody wants to read it, that it grabs their attention. Be cautious about the level of detail that you're putting in. Use the space wisely. Okay. Briefly now, we'll just touch upon the assessment process. So the criteria that is used to decide whether or not to invite an application for full for the full application, is the importance of the research. Does it fill a need? Is it moving the field forward? Does it have good impact and potential for supporting people who are living with dementia and affected by dementia? And is the environment that you're working in and the people that you've built in your team, are they appropriate for making sure that that research will actually be successful? The bits that most people always want to know, of course, the timeframes. You have until the 28th of March to submit your outline proposal. The shortlisting decisions will then be taking place in June. So the review of those applications will be taking place between April and May, and that's reviewed by our scientific and researchers, as well as our research network volunteers. Once that shortlisting meeting has taken place, people will be notified, and the full applications will then become available via Grant Tracker, and that full application process will then close on the 1st of August. So just a touch into the summer holidays, but hopefully still very much doable for people. Following that, we will then have the full review process, which involves expert review panels. There will be interviews. They will take place between possibly end of September and into October. We'll then have our final decision making, and we'll be able to let people know in December if they have been successful, with contracting then taking place in February 2026. So do use that date of February 2026 as your earliest start date. That realistically, that is the earliest start date. March would probably be a little bit more realistic. Happy to answer any questions, of course, on that. These are two questions that often come up for us. So yes, we will be providing feedback on all of the outline proposals that we are sent in. So as I said, we can get hundreds of applications. So be mindful that it won't be a ream of feedback. You'll be given 3 or 4, maybe 5. It depends on the what it is that the reviewers give us. Information wise, we'll give you as much as we can, but it'll be 3 or 4 bullet points, which will include additional points from the research network volunteers as well, specifically looking at the lay form. If you haven't been successful at the shortlisting stage, You will be able to resubmit in our next grant round, which will be opening up in 2026. Make sure you're taking on board those feedback points that you get. If there's anything that you get in your feedback, you just want a little bit more detail, it's always worth getting in touch with us. There might not be more detail that we can give, but do ask, and we'll have a look and see if there was anything extra that we can add in. We want it to be as supportive a process as possible for you. We don't want it to be, nope, not good enough, end of. You put so much work into the research proposals that you draw up, and we know that, and so we don't just want it to be it's not been shortlisted, don't bother coming back. That's not how we want to work things. Always get in touch with us. Okay, and top tips to take away from today, hopefully. This has come across already. Keep people affected by dementia at the heart of your project idea. It's what we're looking for as a charity. It's what we want to see in the research that we fund. Obviously, how you do that is very different depending on the area that you're working in, but make it clear that you've really thought and valued people who are living with dementia within your research idea. So you're using this outline to highlight and showcase your project, going, this is what you could have, and get the reviewers say, oh, I want more information. That sounds great. I want to hear more. Here, have a full application, please. That's what you want to be getting from them, okay? The outline isn't just for academic readers, though. It's for lay readers as well. We really, really spend time making sure your lay section is good. It's so important. Ask people outside of your research area to read through it. Ask people who aren't involved in research to read through it to make sure it's a readable thing. And that can be difficult to give up your work in that way. But our research network are a really important part of this process. They need to be able to read it and be passionate about your passion. Make them feel what you feel about your research. And you can only do that through good writing. Okay. Make sure the formatting's correct, and make sure you get it in by the 28th of March. We will not have any do-overs. 28th of March is our deadline. Plenty of time between now and then. So hopefully you'll be able to get a really good application to us for them. Contact details, hopefully this is something which you already are aware. We've got our grant inquiries at alzheimers.org.uk. If you do have any specific questions about the involvement or the research network volunteers, by all means send them to grant inquiries and we will relay them to Amy and the team to make sure that you get a well-rounded answer from them if you have anything particular. More generally, if you want to keep up to date with Alzheimer Society, we still have our X/Twitter account, and we're also on Blue Sky now as well. I say these slides and the recording were made available. Oh, if you are an early career researcher, do consider joining us at our ECR retreat, which is taking place on the 8th and 9th of July. There's a QR code there for registration. Early career researchers working in dementia, come along to our conference. You can find out more information on the website, or if you wanted to email us for more information, we'd be happy to share more about that conference with you. I'll leave that up for a couple of seconds so you can get your phones out and scan that QR code. Come and join us. We love it. It's the 4th year that we've run this conference, and we're building a really great program of events today. Okay, and the most important bit, with half an hour left to go, so hopefully plenty of time for all the questions, which I'm hoping have been streaming in, Saskia, as we've been nattering.
Yes,
what questions have you got?
Yeah, I've been looking at some of the questions. We've got a few questions to answer. So as we go through them, feel free to pop your questions in the Q&A window, and we'll go through them. And yeah, thank you so much, Julia and Amy, for running through a really useful overview of the outline proposal and the lay portion of the proposal. I'm sure it's been really, really useful for a lot of these potential applicants. So to kick us off, we've got a question on the lay proposal, which we might be able to answer. Is the glossary included in the 1-page limit?
It is, yes. So the feedback that we've had in the past is that, of course, it's only one page, so it'd be easier for people to see, but pop the glossary at the top. Don't hide it away at the bottom, up the top, so that it can be looked at and understood prior to somebody reading through.
Brilliant. And still related to kind of the application form itself, we touched on the research and career development section, but someone was asking about where in this section is the application form, and is there a word or page limit to this? So obviously we'll be running through this section as a standalone webinar tomorrow. But Julie, I don't know if you wanted to give more insights about where it is in the application form. Is it together with the scientific portion?
So it'll be, I'm trying to picture it in my head. It's essentially a free text box within the application form. So as you go through the application form, there's different sections. You've got your CV and publications, which in Grant Tracker is called research outputs. And then there'll be, what are they called? There's your equality, diversity and inclusion bits. And it'll be one of those extra sections. Does that make sense? I'm sorry. I should have got visuals up for it. Like Saskia said, we'll have more information tomorrow. Be able to give you a clearer steer. You'll only find it in our fellowship applications, and which includes the career development grants. So there's a career development grant and there's a pre-doctoral clinical bursary grant as well. And then any of the fellowships, so we've got the postdoctoral fellowship, the Dementia Research Leader Fellowship, and the Clinicians Training Fellowship as well. So any of those, it would have been easier for me to say it's just not in the project grants.
And just to note that the this section, the research and career development section, is a one-page limit. I've just been guided by our senior grants officer.
Oh, yes, sorry, I forgot that was a part of the question as well.
Yeah, one-page limit, but obviously tomorrow we'll be going through more details about this section and you'll have a chance to ask questions specifically about this part. We also have questions about career development grants. So seeing as for a career development grant, the project idea won't be as fully developed, is it okay to give more broader ideas and plans for the year's funding and how it might get you to the stage of putting in a fellowship application? Yeah.
Of course, there is an understanding from all of our board members that the different grants are for different parts of somebody's career. So, of course, the career development, absolutely what it says on the tin, it's about developing an idea, building data that can then be used for a future application. So, of course, it's not going to be as set in stone as a full fellowship application. To make it clear why it's important for you, why it will be so beneficial for that future application. Really drive home the point that you're the best person to be doing that in a great environment. That's the key things to really focus on. Of course, the research, it can't just be a spurious research idea. Make sure that it's well grounded, but don't be concerned that it's not at that fellowship level.
Brilliant. Thank you, Julia. And still related to a career development grant, someone is asking about the total budget, that it's 80k max, or does this exclude the optional pots of money, e.g. 3k for the 10-week intern?
Oh, that's an excellent question. I'd need to bonify myself up there on the applicant guidance. I will come back to you. I believe I've seen this question in grant inquiries this morning as well from somebody. So hopefully you're the same person. So apologies, I didn't get to your email this morning. I will come back to you via email and let you know.
We'll do our best to get back to you. We might need to do a little bit of thinking on that one. And then we mentioned that the research budget needs to be addressed in the outline. How much detail is needed? And well, first we can answer this one.
So the level of detail for the costings?
Yes, exactly,
yes.
for the budget.
Minimal. It really is just a few lines at the bottom of the of the 2-page scientific limit. So you're just giving a very basic, I need this amount for consumables, I need this amount for salary, if that's included, depending on the type, of course, of the grant. If you've got any very extraordinary costs, then it's always worth highlighting those at that point. But at this stage, it's a few lines as outlining how the budget will be broken down. You don't need to go into superannuation or anything like that. I know, or we have been told in the past, that that's not what institutions want, that they want to fall. So you have to consult your own finance people, your research team, and see what they will be happy to, of course, sign off on. They might want your full breakdown at this point. So we don't need that at this stage, and there's nowhere to put that into really on this application form. But in order to get through your own processes in your own institutions, you might have to have a proper costings done. So ask in your place. Amy's got her hand up.
Yeah. I was just going to chip in on that point just to say as well, not for now, but for later. The NIHR guidelines around this, and it is worth considering that if you are, well, you should be involving people in your research. They do tell you to think about around 5 to 10% of your budget for the involvement activity. And whilst we can support some activity, it is always good to think about what you might need for that and what kind of level of involvement, what the activity might cost. So just to chip that in there for the future, not for now.
Thank you, Amy. That's a really important point.
Brilliant. So yeah, we've got a few more questions. Are preliminary data and figures expected at this stage, and will applications be weaker without them?
Oh, that's really a decision that you have to make. If there's an argument that you're making that needs that data behind it, add it in. I feel like it's something which is expected, so you've just got to work out how to fit it in there and what's what's most important. But get support from any colleagues, supervisors that you have about that. We can't be saying exactly what you need to write in the application form.
Yeah, so we can provide some support and guidance, but things like that, I think that's really down to your own expertise and whether you think is really supporting your application or not. And then, sorry, I'm just kind of keeping track. There are quite a few coming in.
Oh, great.
Do we need to specifically mention the transition points of the Alzheimer Society's mission to which our proposal aligns to in the proposal? So that's kind of similar to the last one. It's kind of, I suspect it's down to whether you think it really supports your proposal and what you're trying to kind of sell in your project. Do you agree, Julia?
Yeah. Don't try and shoehorn it into our transition points. Like I said, they are important for us as a charity, and it's great to know that somebody has looked at those and considered them. But if it doesn't, then if what you're working on doesn't align with those, don't try and make it. We want honest and genuine proposals from people, not ones that are trying. We want to hear what your research is, not what am I trying to say? We don't want you to be saying things that you think we want to hear. But if the transition points really fit well with your research, brilliant. Bring 1 or 2 of them in, whatever it is, but don't be hung up on them.
Thank you, Julia. And a question asking, how do related ongoing applications to other funding bodies affect the application? Given the timescale of decisions is often about a year, it's not really feasible to wait for one decision before applying for the next funding option if work is to be timely.
No, of course. And there is a section in the application form to say where else the application has been submitted to. So yeah, make that known and we'll work with you depending on how things go. We absolutely understand that applications have to be spread out between different organisations. So that isn't a bad thing at all. It's just how the system works, and we understand that.
Thank you, Julia. And just to note that Cherie, our Senior Research Officer, has just mentioned in the chat asking, answering some of the question about the budgeting for the career development grants. So I think Thomasina didn't ask that question, so that's that will hopefully help answer your question. But we will, if it's something that you've asked before in our grant inquiries email inbox, then we'll get back to you with a full answer.
That makes total sense from Sheree, of course. The limit is 80,000. There are additional things that you can add in, but it's always the limit is 80,000. So wherever you see the limit for a grant, that's it. We say that there are optional things that you can include in that budget, but you can't go over the limit. So you've got to decide whether or not that £3,000 would be well spent on an intern for you within a career development grant, or maybe that £3,000 would be better spent on consumables for you. You make that decision.
And we can go up to an earlier question that we received that I happened to miss. Can we tie an innovation grant to project grant? And they also asked later on, can project grant be applied for product development? So I guess it's looking at innovation and product development in the grant.
Ooh, I don't just want to give an answer on the fly for that one, because it's not something which we've had before question-wise, and I don't want to be going and giving you the wrong information. So please send us an email with that, so we can get back to you directly, and we will have discussions in the team as well, because yeah, fantastic that you know about our innovation work. Love the innovation team, what they do. Do check out on our website more about the innovation team and the different what they call options and opportunities that they have available for people. But we need to have a discussion about how we can all tie in together. We are a research and innovation team here at Alzheimer Society, so I understand where your question is coming from. It makes total sense. It's not it's not from a completely weird place, but we need to talk amongst ourselves as well for that one.
Yeah, and it's probably really good to capture this kind of thing early as well if we want to involve the innovation team in any project. So thank you for that question, and we're happy to answer it by email if you can send that forward. And then, okay, let me see if there's anything new. So for Dementia Research Leader Fellowship, there's a 25k per annum for research budget. If the grant is 4.5 years, will this mean 112.5k available?
Yes.
Yes, that's right. I was doing my maths. Yeah. There's another one about research leader fellowship. Are we able to request funds for a full-time research assistant on the DRL, Dementia Research Leader Fellowship, or do we need to first calculate the PhD fees and stipend at our university and request the equivalent in RA salary?
I guess if you want to use a research assistant rather than have a PhD student, that's absolutely fine. And yeah, you'll need to find out within your institution, because there are those differences between places. We can't say this is, there's a certain limit that we'll pay when it comes to fees. It's only home-based fees. But yeah, that will be different for each institution. So work it out internally. And this is where it's really important to talk to your finance team and your research team now, because they might not want to give signatory approval when you go to them on the 27th with this idea. So talk to them now and get that kind of information already planned in.
Thank you. And then there's a last question in the Q&A box. It's asking, does the outline proposal require a Gantt chart or a project plan?
No. Not at this stage, no. We asked that for the full application, but it isn't necessary for your outline.
Brilliant. I think our answers have covered everything. I'm just going to have another quick scan through the chat. If I have missed anyone, please just put something in the chat to remind me. So the person asking about the innovation is asking about the best email to reach the innovation team. So it will be if you just email the grant inquiries email. Julie, do you want to go back to that slide with the contact email? Yeah, so our grant inbox is grantinquiries@alzheimers.org.uk. So send over your query to there.
We'll link in the innovation team or a particular person within the innovation team to help as well. Okay.
Okay, I think if that's all the questions you have, again, feel free to send us an email with queries, and we'll do our best to get back to you.